Okay, 9.4 day 3. Last thing to add to our sine and cosine graphs are horizontal translations. Okay, so we already know the amplitude is A. We say absolute value of A only because if there's a negative, it's reflecting a reflection and not the amplitude. The period was 2 pi divided by B. The B is here and here. Okay, now if we do a vertical and a horizontal shift, it's just like we did in the past. So if this is x minus h, this is going to go horizontally h units. Since it's plus k, it's going to go up k units. So the first example, we're just going to identify the information and describe any translations there are. So the amplitude, I'm going to say amp is 2. Period. Normal period for sine is 2 pi, but because it's 7x, I do 2 pi divided by 7. Okay, both of those were good. Okay, is there any horizontal or vertical shifts? Let's look, okay. There's no parentheses, so there's no x plus or minus, so there's no horizontal shift, but there is a plus 3, so this is going to shift up 3, or you could say it translates up 3. Okay, let's look at B. F of x equals 5 times the sine of x minus pi over 2 plus 3. Okay, amplitude, 5. Period. Okay, since there's parentheses, the period would be in front of the x. No, it's normal. So the normal period for sine is 2 pi. Okay, now translations. Okay, what is this going to go? It's going to go right, pi over 2. And it goes up 3. So there's 2 translations or 2 shifts. Okay, g of x equals cosine of 2 times x plus 3 pi minus 4. Okay, amplitude. There's no vertical stretch, so the amplitude's 1. Okay, let's do period. Normal period for cosine is 2 pi, but there is a coefficient of 2 in front of the x, so this is 2 pi divided by 2, which is just pi. Okay, now horizontal vertical shift, x plus 3 pi. So that's going to go left, 3 pi. Anything else? Yeah, down 4. Okay, one more. Amplitude, 3. Period. Okay, normally the period is 2 pi. Uh-oh, there's a 1/5. So I need to do 2 pi divided by 1/5. Okay, what is 2 pi divided by 1/5? Should we do complex fractions or should we multiply by the reciprocal? Let's do reciprocal. Okay, so if I do 2 pi divided by 1/5, I'm multiplying by the reciprocal, which means the period is actually 10 pi. So the fraction makes the period bigger. Okay, and then any translations? X plus, so this goes left, pi over 4, and then it goes up 2. Okay, now let's try to graph some. Okay, we're going to graph the function. This one doesn't look too bad. Let's identify the amplitude and period, though. The amplitude is 1. The period is normal, so it's 2 pi. Is there anything else? What does that plus 3 do? Okay, it's going to go up 3. We have done vertical translations before. So I'm going to move the midline up 3 and move it up here so it's easier to graph. Okay, now the x-axis is not labeled, so I need to label the scale on the x-axis. Okay, you can space it, it's up to you. What do I like? I like the pi's and the 2 pi, so let's make this pi. Let's make this 2 pi. And as long as you label 2 spots on your x-axis, I'm okay with it. Okay, now the sine of 0 is 0, but I moved up 3, so I'm going to start on the midline. So this is 0. Pi over 2 goes up 1, back to the midline, -1, back to 0. So that's 1 period. It ends at 2 pi. So I did it correctly. Since my graph extends on, I'm going to go ahead and continue my graph a little further. So what was it? Down 0, up 0, down 0. So I actually fit 2 periods, and you just don't want your graph to get cut off. So let me sketch my graph and make it curvy. Okay, and put arrows because it keeps going forever and ever and ever. Okay, B, g of x equals 2 times cosine x minus 3. What's the amp? 2. Period. Period's normal, it's 2 pi. any shifts? Yes, it goes down 3. Vertical, so I'm gonna move the midline down 3 because then I can recenter my graph. The period's 2 pi, so I'm gonna space it like normal. I'm gonna call this pi. I'm gonna call this 2 pi. I'm gonna extend my graph to keep track, but as long as you label 2 points, I'm okay with it. Okay, now the graph of cosine starts at, well, normally it starts at 1, but it's gonna start at 2, and it's gonna be from this midline. So from this midline, I'm gonna go up 2 because the amplitude is 2. Okay, then we go back to our midline. Down, midline, back up, and that's 1 period of cosine, which matches up with my 2 pi. Okay, I'm gonna keep going on my dots just because it's weird to stop your periodic graph when we know, in fact, it goes forever and ever. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and sketch it to try to make it curvy. Okay, and remember, this is the peak of the cosine, so it should look like it's gonna go back down on the other side. Okay, and then that's a nice cosine curve. Okay, one more vertical shift. Okay, the amplitude on this is, it's still 1. It has a negative sign, which we'll worry about in a second. Okay, my period, oh, it's a 1/3 x. So I want to do 2 pi divided by 1/3. If I divide by a fraction, I'm timesing by the reciprocal. So the period is actually 6 pi. Okay, what else is happening? It has a negative, so it reflects the x-axis. And it's going to go up 2. So let's move it up 2 first because that's easiest for me. Okay, I'm going to label the scale. Okay, normally I'm like, okay, this is pi, this is 2 pi, but instead of 2 pi, my period is 6 pi, so I'm going to say that's 6 pi. Now, if this is 6 pi, this must be halfway. This is 3 pi. Okay, and other than changing my scale, I'm going to leave everything else the same. Okay, this is a graph of cosine. This is my midline. Cosine normally starts at 1, but there's a negative in front, so instead of starting at +1, it goes to -1. Okay, and then I hit my midline. Since I already went down, I've got to go up now. And then I'm going to follow the pattern. And then when I get to 6 pi, I started at -1. I got back to -1. So I completed 1 period, but because my graph goes on, I'm going to keep going on because it looks funny to cut off our beautiful curve. Okay, cosine. This is the bottom, so it actually should look like it's going back up. Okay, it should look like a nice curve. It should be looking like the midline is in the middle. Otherwise, I have made a mistake. Okay, let's look at D. We're finally gonna have a horizontal shift. Okay, D, amplitude is 3. The period, there's nothing in front of the x, so the period is 2 pi. So at least we didn't miss with 2 pi. However, we are going to do a horizontal translation, right? Pi over 4. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay my period like normal. Normally this is pi. Normally this is 2 pi. And the period didn't change, so I'm gonna go with that. Okay, now I need to go right pi over 4. Before I go right pi over 4, I need to figure out how many spaces right pi over 4 is. So I know pi is here. The number of spaces between 0 and pi is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, which means pi over 4 is 1 space. Can we deal with this? Okay, now normally for sine, we start at 0. But instead of starting at 0, I'm going to go right pi over 4. So 0, I'm going to go right pi over 4. So now I'm going to start here. Okay, normally I go up to the 3 here. But instead of it being here, I need to go right pi over 4. Pi over 4 is 1 space. So I'm going to go over here. Okay, then it normally goes back to 0 at pi. But I'm going right pi over 4, so I'm going to miss it and go to the right. Okay, and then normally we go back down to 3, but I'm going to go right pi over 4. And then normally we end at 2 pi, but I'm going to go right pi over 4, which is 1 space. Okay, now if you look at that, it still looks like sine. It does look like it shifted over 1 space. I am going to follow the pattern because it's weird to cut off our pattern. So it should be going back up. If I went left, what should it do? It should go back down. Let's make it go down. And again, it's just because it's weird to cut off a graph that is periodic. Okay, now I'm going to sketch my graph and we're going to start it one more time. Okay. Curve, 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 Okay, so here's my sine graph. This is one period right here. It looks like sine, it starts at 0, goes up, goes down, back to 0, but it goes right one space. So it's missing each point by one space. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, g of x, what's the amplitude? 2. Period is still 2 pi, which is great. Our shift is gonna go left, pi over 2. But since my period's 2 pi, I'm gonna go normal pi, 2 pi. Okay, now I need to figure out how big pi over 2 is so I can go left pi over 2. Okay, this is 0 to pi. Pi over 2 should be in the middle. So this is pi over 2. Okay, so I'm going to ponder this for a second. Okay, now I want to graph cosine, but I want to go left. So normally cosine starts at 0, 2. Okay, I'm going to put a ghost mark here. Okay, but I want to go left pi over 2. Pi over 2 is 1, 2 spaces. So from here, I'm going to go left 2. Okay, and then normally I go back down to 0. Okay, but I'm going to go left 2 spaces. I'm going to end up over here. Okay, and then normally, once you see the pattern, you can actually just keep going. I can see this was up 0, so it's going to go down. It's going to go back to 0. It's going to go up. It's going to go back to 0. It's going to go down, and it's going to keep following the pattern. Once you catch your pattern, don't worry about the shift anymore. Just try to catch your pattern. Okay, let's try F. Oh, F's got a lot of stuff going on. Amplitude's 1. Period's 2 pi. Okay, what is this going to go? It's going to go left pi over 4. And it's going to go down 2. So I'm going to redraw my midline at down 2 because we're actually okay with the verticals. Okay, period's 2 pi like normal, so I'm not going to mess with my period. I'm going to call this pi. I'm going to call this 2 pi. I need to go left pi over 4, so I need to figure out how big pi over 4 is. 0 to pi is here. I need to divide it into 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each of these is pi over 4. Okay, now I'm going to think about how I would normally graph my cosine graph. Normally cosine starts at 1 from the midline. Okay, and then normally goes 0, -1, something like that. I want to go left pi over 4. Pi over 4 is 1 space. So I'm going to take this dot and go left 1 space. And then I'm going to go to my next dot, and I'm going to go left 1 space. I'm going to go to my next dot, I'm going to go left 1 space. And then once you see the pattern, you're going to follow the pattern. This is up, midline, down, midline, up, midline, down. I would keep going. Okay, once you see the pattern, you know it's periodic. We can sketch the graph from there. Okay, and we're going to try to make it curvy, even though it doesn't look curvy. Okay, and then if I look at cosine, it definitely moved down 2. Normally cosine starts at 1, but it's off by 1. It normally ends at 2 pi, it's off by 1. So it looks like I did it correctly. Okay, one more. Okay, the amplitude is 3. The period is still 2 pi. So I'm going to label my scale like normal, and I'll figure out the rest. Okay, now what does this do? This goes right pi. It goes up 2, and what else? And there's a reflection of the x-axis. So this is kind of like everything we could possibly do to it. Okay, up 2 is okay. I'm going to redraw the midline. Okay, now I want to go right pi. How big is pi? Pi is that whole space, so 4 spaces. So normally my sine starts at 0. I'm going to go right pi, which is 4 spaces. Okay, and then from here, I normally go up 3, but it's a -3, so I'm going to go down 3. But instead of going down 3 here, I need to go right 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be down here. Okay, now let's look at this, because if I can get the pattern quicker, I can get the answer quicker. It went 0, it went down. Where's it going to go next? Back to the midline, up 3, back to the midline, down 3, back to the midline. Okay, I'm gonna go backwards because it should hit my x-axis. This is down, 0, up, and 0. Okay, and then I'm gonna draw a curvy because it's a curve. Okay, and let's stare it real quick. It went up 2. I agree. The amplitude is 3. The amplitude is 3. We went right pi, so it started here. Instead of going up first, it went down because of the negative. And instead of ending at 2 pi, it ended up at 3 pi because it was pi to the right. Okay, and that's about the worst I can give you for cosine sine.